What is the intended use of the optional else clause of the try statement in Python? What is the intended use of the optional else clause of the try statement?
The statements in the else block are executed if execution falls off the bottom of the try, if there was no exception. Honestly, I've never found a need. However, handling exceptions notes. The use of the else clause is better than adding additional code to the try clause because it avoids accidentally catching an exception that wasn't raised by the code being protected by the try except statement. So, if you have a method that could, for example, throw an error, and you want to catch exceptions it raises, but there's something else you want to do if the first operation succeeds, and you don't want to catch an error from that operation, you might write something like this. If you just put another underscore operation underscore that underscore can underscore throw underscore error, after operation underscore that underscore can underscore throw underscore error, the except would catch the second call's errors. And if you put it after the whole try block, it'll always be run, and not until after the finally. The else lets you make sure. The second operations only run if there's no exception. It's run before the finally block, and any errors it raises aren't caught here.
One use, test some code that should raise an exception. This code should be abstracted into a more generic test in practice.
There is one big reason to use else, style and readability. It's generally a good idea to keep code that can cause exceptions near the code that deals with them. For example, compare these. And the second one is good when the except can't return early, or rethrow the exception. If possible, I would have written. Note, answer copied from recently posted duplicate here, hence all this ask password stuff.
Python try else. What is the intended use of the optional else clause of the try statement? The intended use is to have a context for more code to run if there were no exceptions where it was expected to be handled. This context avoids accidentally handling errors you did not expect. But it's important to understand the precise conditions that cause the else clause to run, because return, continue, and break can interrupt the control flow to else. In summary, the else statement runs if there are no exceptions and if not interrupted by a return, continue, or break statement. The other answers miss that last part. From the docs. The optional else clause is executed if and when control flows off the end of the try clause. Asterisk. Bolding added, and the footnote reads. Asterisk currently, control flows off the end except in the case of an exception or the execution of a return, continue, or break statement. It does require at least one preceding except clause, see the grammar. So it really isn't try else, it's try except else, finally, with the else, and finally, it being optional. The Python tutorial elaborates on the intended usage. The try except statement has an optional else clause, which, when present, must follow all except clauses. It is useful for code that must be executed if the try clause does not raise an exception. For example, the use of the else clause is better than adding additional code to the try clause because it avoids accidentally catching an exception that wasn't raised by the code being protected by the try except statement. Example: differentiating else versus code following the try block. If you handle an error, the else block will not run. For example, and now.
Introduction to